With the games coming thick and fast in this period, it's not practical to do a match-by-match overview and repeat many of the same points. As it is, I'm recording this just before the Sunderland game and will publish soon after, so rather than going deep into the games, I'm going to be examining the themes that have emerged over the course of Thomas Frank's tenure. As I categorize my thoughts, the most recurring theme was the spark provided by Wilson Odobert. Now, some fans are still mixed about him, and while his numbers still don't show the goals and assists you expect from a winger, if you look at his output per minute in recent games, you'll see that his creative contributions are significant. Odobert comes on in the 63rd minute of the Palace game and is behind more of our chance creation in that period than the rest of the game. In this move, Gray carries from the right wing to the centre and lays it off to Spence, who finds Odobert wide. He cuts inside and tests the keeper with a shot. On 83 minutes, Van de Ven intercepts a Palace ball in Odobert's direction. Surrounded by 4 players, he takes them on and plays a 1-2 with Richarlison, but never gets the return ball. 2 minutes later, off a punt from Vicario, Richarlison flicks to Odobert, who knocks it back to Richarlison's head and tees him up for a half volley just outside the box that hits the post. In the 6th minute of injury time, Spence finds Odobert on the wing. He takes his man on, plays a 1-2 with Richarlison, and puts a cross in that goes through to Porro. Porro cuts it back to Bentancur, whose shot is safe. Again, Odobert creates chaos from the left, and we benefit from the space it creates when we switch the play to the right wing. What I don't understand is why don't we do this more, as it unbalances the opponents and creates gaps for us to exploit. This performance earns him a start in the Brentford game. In the 16th minute of the first half, Vicario kicks to clear, Gray flicks it on, and Richarlison punts it ahead for Odobert to chase. He takes a super touch to control it and take on his man. Unfortunately, the attempted cutback is blocked. In the 38th minute, Paulinho sets Odobert down the left wing, who finds Spence in the left half space, and hits Richarlison with time and space at the edge of the box. He tries to disguise a pass to Spence, but Spence doesn't read it. This is promising, and it comes from Odobert's willingness to make passes into the centre that aren't just crosses or cutbacks into a packed box, but slightly further back where there's space to exploit. Odobert is subbed off at 67 minutes, and after that point, Brentford take control of the game, with Spurs struggling to even get the ball out of their own half for long periods of the game until the 83rd minute, when Bentancur goes on a pressing rampage and Muani switches to the right. The other main takeaway I had from these two games was a question. We have assumed that we're more defensively solid under Frank. Are we? These are some of the observations I had about our defensive structure and solidity. In the 19th minute of the Palace game, they take a goal kick. Mateta wins the aerial ball against Danso and passes it. But Gray clears it only as far as Lerma, finds Wharton, and he shows great control and passes it to Mateta in space. Why is Mateta in space? Why is no one picking him up? Are we playing him offside? There are basically 2 unmarked Palace players here, right in our box. On 26 minutes, Palace switch a free kick from the right wing to the left to change the angle of attack, and it works because there are 3 Palace players against Muani in the box. The crew hits to Mateta, and we get off the hook again when his header goes over. The defensive line is pushed up to play the offside trap, but Muani is playing everyone on. Now, it's possible that the Palace players are pulling on him to keep him there to play them onside, but the rest of the defensive line also has to be aware that there are 3 Palace players on 1 in such a dangerous area of the pitch. Just before halftime, Palace is allowed to string 13 passes together without any pressure all the way to our penalty box. The move starts with a throw-in from the left. They pass it to the right back, it goes to Gueye, then to Lecru, and back to Gueye. Look how far we're backing off here. Their centre-backs are in midfield and we still aren't putting them under pressure. Gueye has so much time on the ball, he hits a diagonal to Klein, who checks back to Lerma. At this point, we have the Palace centre-backs in our attacking third, controlling the ball with no pressure on them. The crew receives in the centre circle. The nearest Spurs player is more than 20 yards away. Gueye receives the ball 70 yards from goal, still no Spurs player within 20 yards. When exactly are we going to press them? Mitchell receives on the left wing, and finally Porro pushes up to him, but he's so far away that Mitchell switches it back to Gueye before Porro can get within 5 yards. With 20 yards of space to pick a pass, Gueye hits another diagonal to Klein, who hits it to Devaney. He passes it back to Wharton, who has a hot shot which Gray charges down. Now, it's easy to look at this sequence and go no harm done, we conserved energy and they didn't get a shot on target. But this is Palace. They didn't do much with the time and space afforded to them, but another team will make a lot more of these opportunities and punish us with much more dangerous chances. Now at this point it's tempting to say Frank analyzes the opponent and tailor fits his tactics to the team he plays against. This is 4D chess and we set off knowing that they would do nothing with it. Even if this is true, this means that our players had to play 38 unique setups every time, more if you include the cups in Europe. It's not sustainable to adapt to your opponent and to change up your pressing pattern and intensity for every opponent. I'm reminded of the previous game where Van der Ven was reading notes passed to him in the middle of the game. This becomes extremely confusing for players if they don't have a North Star. In the second half against Palace, Gay again with tons of space, we have seen already how dangerous he can be on the ball, so why do we continue to give him the luxury of time and space to pick a pass? He finds Jeremy on the left who plays a 1-2 with Mitchell and crosses into the box. Klein hits from the far post to Devaney who somehow puts it over the bar. In the Brentford game, they win a 50-50 from our throw-in. Lewis Potter starts a break and his pass finds Schade, who cuts it back past Romero, but Bentancur cleans up behind him. Henderson pounces on the loose ball to cross it in, and Thiago misses the header, which he probably should have left for Lewis Potter. On 53 minutes, Brentford hits on a long ball. They combine and find the wide left in space, and find an open man in our 6-yard box. How? We have 6 defenders in the box to 3 men. The next theme I have is about central midfield. Firstly, there are times I feel the team is playing central midfield is lava. When we're building up, our midfield is frequently bereft, completely empty, with no player making themselves available for a short pass at all. In build-up in this scenario, Palace are pressing high. We are outnumbered in this corner 5 against 4. Where are the midfielders? Why is the space empty? Van der Ven has to force a pass to Muani, who's being aggressively tracked. Muani will receive a man breathing down his neck and none of his teammates available to bounce the pass to. He will receive the ball but foul Wharton as the 2 Palace players on him muscle into the ball. We keep asking Kudus and Muani to do this, win difficult to receive balls while outnumbered by opponents, then say that they're crap for being unable to do so. Another common theme is Porro passing to Kudus, who tries to dribble on the wing but has no support at all from midfield. This diagram shows our touches on the field, and you can clearly see how much we rely on Kudus to do anything in the attacking third, and how little we have in the middle of the opponent's half. What I mostly observed is how often we lack players there to help progress play, and yet in the rare times that we do progress down the middle, it creates dangerous chances, begging the question, why don't we do it more? Now let's take a look at the times we do try to play down the middle and what kind of play develops from there. In this scenario, Gray picks up a defensive header blocking Porro's lob to Kudus. He finds Kudus with a through pass, and Kudus sends a cross in with a Trivela for Richarlison's second offside goal. Thank God he doesn't celebrate that with his shirt off anymore. Another occasion happened in the Palace game. Bentancur hits a ball to Richarlison, who flicks it through to Johnson, but his cutback to Odobert doesn't reach him. We can be lethal down the centre, but we don't even try it most of the time. Bear in mind that Odobert and Johnson are the main protagonists for our progressive play since coming on, but they rarely get the minutes to do so. In the Brentford game, Romero passes to Gray, who backheel flicks to Odobert. Odobert sprays it to Spence, who returns the ball to Odobert, running in behind. Odobert then finds Gray in the left half space, but his shot is blocked. In this scenario, Paulinho plays a ball down the centre to Gray, who does well to turn and carry into the box, but the referee thinks that his tumble isn't a foul. So if we don't play down the centre enough, how are we progressing the ball? Our typical plan of attack is for Porro to ping a ball down the right wing for Kudus. There is some interplay between Kudus and Bergvall, resulting in space for Porro to cross just outside the box for Richarlison's first offside goal. Our pattern of play is essentially to cross down the right wing, where our strongest dribbler and best crosser are, and have one attacking midfielder to help them progress the ball down the flank to get an opening for a cross. The issue with vertical balls is that they're hard to control when they're aerial and not into space. When most of our progressive passes are very vertical, it means that our strikers are receiving the ball like this, running towards goal while facing backwards, and possibly with centre-backs jumping onto them. It's not ideal, and that's why our shots on target are very low for most of our games, and we have single-digit through passes for the entire half of the season. Now on the opposite flank, we see Spence hit one for Muani. The Palace player marking Muani gets the tackle wrong and frees Muani down the wing. He carries it while Spence overlaps, and Spence gets a cutback which is blocked. Frank seems to favour progressive play down the flank rather than down the centre. Now part of the reason could be that even if we lose the ball from there, it's an area of the pitch where it's easier to defend threats from. Just stay compact, prevent cutbacks and win aerial duels. The flip side is that your attacking threat faces the same ease of defending. It's mainly an individual error from a Palace player that allows this chance. A more disciplined and conservative approach instead of diving in would mean that this threat is more contained. One other theme I noticed is our strange decisions at goal kicks. Our setup at goal kicks is neither here nor there. Over here we have 5 outfield players deep in our own third, marking 2 Palace players. That means further up the pitch, we have 5 players against 8 Palace players. There's very little chance of retaining possession from a goal kick with this kind of numerical disadvantage. We're asking our players to work miracles. So Muani somehow gets the first header. Richarlison manages to receive the flick on. He gets the ball to Muani, who's then muscled off the ball. That's the problem with not being able to set up to progress play and being dependent on winning duels. You can win 2 duels and get a pass, but then you're outnumbered 6-3 in that part of the field. You're expecting superhuman levels of performance, and this is what our reliance on Kudus early in the season looked like. That's why he's exhausted and playing way below his level now. Also, if we're going to take long goal kicks, Richarlison, Bentancur and maybe Muani are the only players I would expect to win aerial duels. If we've decided that we're going to do long balls, we should send the centre-backs to midfield to win the headers and keep the wing-backs deeper for safety, rather than expecting Bergvall and Gray to compete for headers. We do this against Brentford as well. We have 6 outfield players here for the 2 strikers, leaving us with 4 against 8 elsewhere in the field. As the kick goes to midfield, you can see that we have 6 on 3 in this middle third of the field, and the 2 Brentford centre-backs out of the screen. So some quick notes on other things I noticed over these 2 games. I've heard it suggested before that Romero could play in the 6, and it's tempting to think that he can because he fulfills some of the attributes, such as the ability to make line-breaking passes in the central position and tackle. However, there is one other attribute that a 6 needs: the ability to scan 360 degrees and be aware of what's behind him. As a centre-back, Romero is used to seeing the entire field in front of him. Here he is being ambushed on the ball because he doesn't scan and realize that he's being closed in by the striker. Moving on to other tidbits, our press against Palace was strangely uncoordinated. Here we see Bentancur pressing very high on the keeper, but Richarlison is more than 20 yards away from the most obvious passing option. Over here we see Hughes is the next most obvious passing option, and he's also wide open. Why bother pressing so high and burning so much energy when it's uncoordinated and so ineffective? It feels like Bentancur is gone into headless chicken mode. Kudus comes charging in to press Hughes, but he's so late that it's pointless, and by the time Mitchell receives the ball, he literally has 3 solid options just in the screen and possibly even more off screen. So these are my observations from the Palace and Brentford games. Let me know if you notice anything else that you'd like to talk about.